Sports is the Legends of College Basketball. Today, we have one of the biggest Duke legends. Actually, when I read a lot about Eugene, all I hear is he was the guy that got this all started in 1977, 78. Help me welcome to the show, Gene Banks from the Duke Blue Devils. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on your show. I feel appreciated. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I still remember to this day being 9 years old watching you guys play Kentucky because I'm from Indiana, so I hate Kentucky. So you guys were just like me cheering for Indiana. It was a great game. You had guys like you, Mike Jaminski, Jim Spinarkle. Of course, Goose Givens goes off for like 42 points. But it's always great to have somebody on that knows what this was like really when it started because to me, March Madness started – I mean, to really blow up right around you guys and then Magic and Larry the next year, and just kind of took off. You want to talk a little bit about your tournament experience in 1978 because there were only 32 teams in the tournament at the time.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. You can even go back to 1974. The ACC just had a special, not credit to the ACC, but to Matt Brown and Greensboro Sports Council. They had the 74 team where Maryland played NC State. Remember that two teams?
Yeah.
And they had Mo Howard and Lynn Elmore. They had to play this game. They were one was number 3 in the country, one was number 5 in the country, or something like that. And here it was, a situation was only one of them can go to the tournament. Whoever won that game went to the tournament. Here they were 4th and 5th. So that changed the narrative of brackets because, as you know, NC State went on to win. Maryland was left out in the cold. And here was one of the top teams in the country because of these rules. Flip forward to our situation with Duke, we played, and I think Carolina, we had a wonderful season, Cinderella season, but we were tied with Carolina. Carolina was won the regular season tournament championship, so they get to go. They're already in. You win the conference, you're already in. That's the rules. But then we also had the beginning of the ACC tournament. So what they popped in there, they added this in there to say, well, if whoever wins the tournament can also get in. So Wake Forest had the great Rod Griffin and some great players and Larry Harrison. And we won that tournament. Duke hadn't won. Coach Foster used to have a joke where when he went to the ACC tournament, he only wore a pocket handkerchief because they wouldn't get out the first round. So, luckily, I'm thankful God has been, I'm not somebody that's going to preach. I don't even preach, but I believe in spirituality. And God was the one that told me to go to Duke and said these things were happening.
And that's the thing, Gene. You were one of the first McDonald's All-Americans with Magic Johnson, Albert King. You were the MVP of Dapper Dan. Nobody thought Gene Banks is going to Duke. You had UCLA. All the major players wanted you. Yeah. Duke was last in the ACC the year before you got there. I mean, you talk about God speaking to you. I mean, that really shocked a lot of people, and it really did put Duke basketball on the map to be able to get a recruit like yourself.
Well, it was the resurrection. It shocked me. You know, I went to visit the schools, and we get a chance to visit 6 schools. I saw Michigan on TV. I picked them to visit Notre Dame, NC State because of David Thompson, North Carolina. So you had your 4, then UCLA. You had your 5. So back then, you were only allowed to visit 6 schools. And I had one left. My English teacher, Bill Foster was a coach at the time. He came to my school, dropped off a brochure, book. And in the book, it wasn't about the basketball team. It was about the landscape of the campus. So he gave it to my high school coach. And my coach said, here, this guy, Bill Foster, came here. And Bill was well respected up in the East Coast. And gave me this book. I'm looking through it. So I'm with my English teacher, make a long story short. He says, well, you got one more visit to go back. I said, yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go. I'll pick these big schools because I want to see how they are. And to get him off my back, he says, we should go visit Duke. Great institution, great academic, blah, 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 blah. He said, So I said, you know what? I'll go visit. Get off. Leave me alone. Stop. So I went, and as you well know, being number 1 player in the country along with Albert King, they're going to treat you with a lot of respect and a lot of this and that. So I enjoyed it. I liked the school. Students were from all over the world, kind of. It was a different feel. But make a long story short, I didn't really know where I wanted to go because I would have went to the University of Penn. Okay. The Ivy League still had that ruling in. These are the same rulings that Art Heyman and guys back, Charlie Scott, Lou Alcindor went through. They had to play on the freshman team
Yeah.
first. The NCAA tore that rule down, stopped it, except for the Ivy League was the only conference that did not change the ruling. So I didn't want to go to play on a freshman team when I knew I could play on varsity. That ruled them out. So make a long story short, I'm very, very thankful. I said I was going to go there. I'm not like a Patrick Ewing or Ralph Sampson. That's big and he's an aircraft carrier. But I knew that what I had in me I was taught by the West Philadelphia Speedboys, Joseph Goldenberg, the coach, how he taught us to be a winner, that I could bring that. I said, I'm going to come and help make them a national power. Mind you, it happened as soon as I got there. So
Yeah.
I'm thankful to God for that opportunity and that experience.
Yeah, and didn't that team start like 3 or 4 freshmen that year?
Yeah, it was it was myself and Kenny Denard, and that's another story. Trubisky was a sophomore. John Harold was a sophomore. Oh yeah, and then it was Spinarco. Spinarco was a sophomore, a junior. He was getting ready to go into his next year. So Spinarco did, but all the rest of us were sophomores and freshmen. So we were the 2 freshmen, Kenny Denard and myself. And I never played except for my high school team. I never played basketball with so much fun than playing for that Duke team. And other players like Vince Taylor comes a year later. He was a McDonald's All-American. Johnny Dawkins. And they said to me, they said, watching you play, we wanted to know why a guy like you were going to Duke University, number one. And I like the way you guys played. You guys had fun. So I'm very, very thankful that I was able to revolutionize African-American players to really take interest into going to Duke University.
Yeah, because really Duke didn't have their first scholarship African American player until just like a decade before you got on campus, did they?
In 1965, C.B. Claiborne. He's now Dr. Claiborne. I had the opportunity for the first time this year to meet him, which was I was in awe. And apparently I didn't say he was in awe of me, but I know the story about him, and it's a great story. He's from Danville. He tells us that story with Vic Bubas and them hired him and gave him a scholarship. And it really wasn't a scholarship. He got a grant and aid.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. And that's just an amazing thing that has come along. And I'm very, very proud of that. If nothing else, my number's not retired. Everybody gets mad about it, but that's a situation between the AD Tom Butters and Bill Foster that had their little riff for rafts. But it doesn't matter. I'm very, very thankful. If I die tomorrow, that I was instrumental in making sure that African Americans got a chance to look at the school and know that they compete and do well. And like for me, I was raised. I don't care about whether you're black or white. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
It's about camaraderie and love and doing what you have to do.
Well, that's the great thing about sports, though, especially when you're on a team. Nobody sees black, white, or anything else. You're just a part of the team. It's one family. And from watching you guys, like in the Final Four beating Notre Dame, you guys look like you always had fun. You look like you cared about each other. The thing that gets me on doing these legend shows, whether it's the 1988 Bengals or the 1965 Packers, all those teams will talk about that. When you ask them, I interviewed a couple former Packers, Jerry Kramer, and you ask him what was so special about Vince Lombardi. And he said, well, you were scared to death of him, but you loved him and you would do anything for him. And that's the same thing, surprisingly. If you're not an Indiana basketball fan, you think Bobby Knight's nuts. But when you talk to guys that played for Indiana, that's the way they felt about him. And that's got to be the most important thing to me about being a successful coach is making sure your players know that you care about them more just than playing basketball or football.
For sure. Well, I mean, one of the things that you got to have your MO on the team. I mean, when Bill was more of a whimsical, tactical, but he also had Lou Getz, who was his assistant coach.
Yeah.
You got to remember Lou Getz when we went to the Final Four and we lost to Kentucky. We came back number 1 in the country. Lou Getz went on to Richmond to get a chance to be the head coach of Richmond. That changed a lot of things because you got to have another guy on that staff, like an assistant coach that knows how to whim to that. Like Bobby Knight, I'm sure he had people on his staff to be able to downplay some of that stuff. So that hurt us a great deal to not have that type of person. But these guys put their mark on it. Coach K is definitely one of those where he kept saying, when he was going through his tough times, he says, all they have to do is maintain and understand the plans, what I'm trying to do, and embrace it. We'll be okay. And that was considered the FISC. The FISC program, that his principles were having collective responsibility, trust, communications, just a lot of this. There's 5 things, and Coach K can tell you that whole story, which is made his success because he was almost out of there, as you well know.
Yeah.
But he had the trust and the support of Tom Butters. Tom Butters was the main thing that kept him there. Other than that, you would never even heard about Coach K. But he maintained, he dug. You know, the thing about K is his resilience and maintaining. We got to remember he was raised in military doctrine. You know, he know how to how do you call delegate.
Yeah, he played at Army for Bob Knight. I
Yeah.
mean, so they
So
both
he,
kind of came from the same background.
yep. He always said that to us. He says, I'm not Bobby Knight. But there were some times where my year with him, we were struggling. We saw somebody.
Yeah, I've heard some Coach K at practice stories where they said him and Bobby Knight were way more similar than what Coach K
Yeah,
would want you to
yeah.
think.
He kept it hidden for a while, but we got our butts tore up one night, and ooh, we saw the Bobby Knight come out of it. But he had his own unique style, and he was a great motivator. The only thing I have any regrets with Coach K is the fact that I didn't have another year with him.
Yeah. And you, like you said, you revolutionized Duke basketball just by showing up on campus. You were from West Philly.
Yeah,
Now, there's a lot of talent coming up there when you were coming up. You want to
wow.
talk a little bit about that?
Awesome talent. I come from West Philadelphia. I was born and raised in South Philly, but then moved to the West Philadelphia area. But you got to remember, in that area back, you had the Wilt Chamberlains came out there, Earl Monroe, Wayne Hightowers, Chubby Cox. I can go down a list where basketball was just prevalent. And I came up through that era as a young person playing during that era, where you went to different playgrounds. Some people in New York knows about that, in LA. But in Philadelphia, you had playgrounds all around the city where there was competition like you would not believe, constantly. So we would play 4 or 5 games in a day, going here and there playing, even when they had the little rec leagues. You got guys like, if you remember, Lewis Lloyd that went to Drake.
Yeah.
He from Overbrook. Michael Brooks. Remember Michael Brooks? That
Yep.
he played on the Olympic team. Pooh Richardson, Hank Gathers, Rasheed Wallace from North Philly, from the area. It was just such a gambit, and then also as you watch Fran McCaffrey, if you look at Fran McCaffrey, the coach of Iowa, you would never think that he was an unbelievable ball. He was like mini Pistol Pete.
I would not believe that.
He was amazing, and Fran.
Did
And
he cry and whine all the time?
huh?
Did he cry and whine all the time when he
He was.
played?
He had the long hair, floppy socks, but his ball handling skills, his game was amazing. And he would come to the black neighborhoods fearlessly and play, and he got accepted. He went to learn how to play the game, and his parents would be with him, and sometimes at times, and you would never think that he was that phenomenal of a ball player. I loved playing with him. Jeffrey Clark was a great player. So during that time, basketball was just incredible. And my motto was basically, what for me was my advantage was, I just didn't want anybody to outwork me. That was the thing. When you play on the courts, if you lost, and guys from Philadelphia and New York and LA would tell you, you go to that court, if you lost a game, you had to sit for an hour, 2 hours to get your team back out there. And you guys, where you are, experienced that as well.
Yeah.
So you had to bust your behind. So I learned a lot of parts of the game, and diving on the floor, on the cement floor, and because my dad was influential with me liking the game, because I didn't like basketball. So, but basketball in Philadelphia, you got to get this, the Sunny Hill Baker League. If you know anything about
Yeah.
the Sunny
I've
Hill
heard
League,
of it.
which is very powerful. They put together a league for us. It wasn't nothing like AAU, and we all played at Temple McGonigal Hall. And after us, the Baker League played. So we had guys come down, and like Dr. J would come down, and they had games after. So they had different levels of the league, but they were teaching us about being men and being respectful in our communities and loving our parents and all that. And I got that nurturing. I mean, not many people have that nurturing now. And now they got AAU basketball. I think they fall short, and I'm not a big fan of AAU.
No.
The thing I like about it, if I do like anything about it, it keeps them busy and off the streets. That's one thing, but it's gotten perverted and gotten crazy, and I don't like it at all much in any way. But like I said, at least gives them a chance to compete.
Yeah. What's your take on the nil money?
They didn't have it when I was there.
Yeah, but back when you was there, most of the coaches was paying it out, except for Duke,
Oh.
probably.
You know, everybody asks you, people will ask you that. I mean, it's even when I played in the pros. Aren't you jealous, upset about the money these guys are making? No, that was their time. You got to remember, and you know history. John Havlicek and those guys of Boston before that, some of them guys had to have second jobs.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
if you look back 50s and 60s, every Major League Baseball player, NFL player, all had second jobs because
unbelievable.
they weren't making outrageous. The only issue I have with the nil is I think that the NCAA shrieked their responsibility to pay the players the way they should, since they're the ones making billions, and they just put it off here, and now you've got a little bit of a mess from it. Because I know me and Steve Risley, we always talked about maybe just take a kid and each year put $10,000 in an annuity. If they graduate in 4 years on time, no matter whether you're the 12th guy on the team or the first guy, you leave college with 40 grand in your pocket. And it's
Yeah,
a way to keep guys in there longer. I mean, but the
and I think
NCAA, they don't want to have to pay it out of their own pocket.
the NCAA has really made a mess of some things. I've known people when I watch the thing that has happened through the years. They've really made a mess of certain things, and they've made a lot of money off of the players through the decades. And now they got faced with this situation. Now they don't even know how to control or how this happens. With all the rules, even with the kids getting ready to leave, you got to remember. One of the things I always preach, I say, well, if the kid leaves early, I would like for the kid like an Elton Brand left early and Zion and those guys from the Duke era, so to speak. I always said that if a kid leaves, the kid should leave back, if nothing else in his contract, that he gives back money to a contract to another kid. And not even so much a student athlete, but a student, if they leave early. The thing that's really that's interesting is that with the NIL, you got to remember there were coaches leaving, promising kids, and then they're gone, and they
Yeah.
get a job, and they get a bigger contract or whatever. And it's really interesting that now the kids are getting they get pissed off. They're leaving on the transfer portal, and it's a big mess. And now they don't know how to control it. They really
They
don't know.
don't. I don't think they want to control it, Gene. I think they just want to be left out of it so they can collect their billions of dollars from TV money. I mean, it's just like moving USC, UCLA on to the Big Ten. I mean, I think the way this ends up is just 2 or 3 super conferences a few years from now.
Yeah,
Everybody's making all that money, and the mid majors get pushed even farther down the road.
it's really sad. Like Maryland's not even the ACC. Maryland has history in the ACC.
I know, and they're in the Big Ten. It makes no sense.
I mean, how do you do it for what 50 million plus? Because of whether it was the Maryland's trust, but there's no the thing about, and I hope you guys in your show keep this going. I really want this. The thing about tradition and history and legacy, that's so it's almost getting lost.
It
You know,
is lost, I think.
and it's you remember the Big Ten. You always had that one thing that you remember Purdue and Indiana and ACC. I mean, it's scary. It's really scary, and it's sad because now all these kids are thinking nothing but commercialization. They're not looking at anything traditionally. They're not looking at CB Claiborne at Duke. They're not looking at the players that. Oh my God! I mean, you got to remember. I'm throwing my history. Dean Smith. They don't even look at the history where when you talk about racism, Dean Smith, out of all the coaches in ACC, was a backer where he fought. For the workers in the cafeteria to get more higher pay. People don't know those stories.
Yeah.
So you're missing these stories that are so powerful. That's why I have a great love for the knowledge of Dean Smith. And we have a bitter rivalry with Carolina, but I have a great respect for them.
Yeah, you can have a rivalry and still have respect. You can still be
Yeah.
friends and be a rival. But nowadays, I don't know that anybody's a rival anymore, Gene, because I think most
It's
players are out for themselves. Most coaches are out for themselves.
yeah,
How many coaches do we see? Luke Fickell to University of Cincinnati. He jumps to Wisconsin because more money. How are you going to blame a kid for leaving to go to a different school to give a better opportunity when the coaches do it all the time? And I mean, the coaches have been doing this forever. And then the
yeah,
other thing that's sickening to me is watch a guy like Rick Pitino get another job at a major university.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, come on. The dude had sex at an Italian restaurant under the table, knocked a girl up, paid for her abortion, but
yep,
yet he's gotten
yep,
2 more jobs since. I
yep.
mean, it's
And
what do you teach people by that?
these are not just jobs. You got to remember when he goes in these negotiations, he's locking in a solid 3 or 4 year contract. That's a little big money.
Yeah.
He's not like they will give him $100,000 just to coach this team. We're giving you a chance, Rick. We're giving you a chance to get your model and everything back on track. No, he's going to get a big contract, and that's the sad part because there's a lot of assistant coaches out here that deserve those opportunities, but some teams are desperate. St. John's needs a power figure. They need that attraction, and they know his track record as far as him putting teams against guys like him. You can bring Larry Brown in, but Larry Brown's older, and Larry tell you, he says the knowledge they have is excellent, but they're older. There's a different feel with these kids the way you talk to them. But the Patino thing, yeah, I mean that stinks to high heaven, and nothing against him. I have nothing personally against him, but this is just he knows it, so he's going to take advantage of it.
Yeah. The sad thing is you're supposed to be in charge of making young men better men. And
Yeah,
it's hard to do that when you're showing them that guys like this get another shot. So that's my only issue with that.
yeah. I
But
mean, it's forward. I mean, we know it. You can see it on the front of your faces, and the New York Times is all over the place that they know this is not proper and it's not right, but they're desperate to get
yeah,
the
but as
pro.
soon as he wins his first game there, everybody's forgotten anything scummy
Yeah,
he's ever done. And we
yeah,
just love Rick Pitino, and
yeah.
he's going to take us to the Final Four. And it gets sickening. I mean, Xavier with Sean Miller. Sean Miller, come on. I
You
mean,
haven't
they
you
blame
haven't
his
seen
they blame his assistants.
listen. You haven't seen anything yet. Let him go on a winning streak. 10-game winning streak starting at the season, and everybody, Sports Illustrated, they're going to go back in the stories. The bad part won't come out, but
Oh
they'll be
yeah.
kissing his behind and hailing him as he's this, that, and the other thing. Watch and see what happens. That's what St. John's is hoping. They're hoping that he starts winning them and brings great attention to them in that way, not the other way. They
Yeah.
already, but they just need that attention. And oof, it's going to be interesting.
All right, so let's talk March Madness. 1978. Nobody expected you guys to do anything. You enter
No,
the NCAA tournament. And like everybody else, whether you win a national championship or you get to the Final Four, there's always that one game where you almost blow it at the start. You guys had that against Rhode Island, a team you
yes,
only beat by a point. Do you
yes.
remember much about that game?
I remember a lot about that. We they had Sly Williams. This guy was an amazing left-handed, and we played zone. We mixed up man to man. He was tough to guard, and I've always had a tough time against lefties. But they played strong. They played well. We just had. I'm telling you, we played hard. They played hard, but we just had the luck of sheesh, the luck of the Irish. We had God's blessings. We had all that mixed up into one because they had at the very last part, they had 3 shots at the basket. And one went up, the ball went in, came back out, tapped it up, they got it back, shot it again, tapped it up, went up again. And then I think myself or Mike got and just spiked it high in the air and it went out of bounds and the time ran out. Just to think about that, that ball goes in. There is no Duke resurrection going to it ends right there. We had a good season, looks nice, but the storybook would have stopped. But every team has those type of games. You'll have that one game where you're just going to be lucky and get after it, and that was our game. And we'll my hats off to them. They played hard and they played well, and I think that was the last time things went well. But that was our wonderful game that we need, our luck game.
All right, and then you make it to the Final Four in St. Louis. As an IU fan, I remember this because it confused me because you're playing at the Checker Dome in St. Louis with the Indiana University floor from Assembly
Yeah,
Hall. You guys played Notre Dame in the first round. Notre Dame had a great teamer in the first semifinal game, and you guys beat them 90-86. That was the Notre Dame with, I think, Kelly Tripucka, Bill Laimbeer, those guys. You want to
yep.
talk a little bit about that game?
Van Wilcox. It's interesting that we were not. I think we were in the same hotel staying there, and they were walking around with their chests out, and they were talking a bunch of smack. And we weren't. We were just kids blowing bubble gum. There was no fear in us, but they were just walking around just arrogant, and they just were talking about, well, how much we heard them in the background. How much we think we be? We'll spot them 15. We'll be about 15. So, we heard that. We didn't care about them. We jumped on them so fast. I think we were up by 15. They
Yeah, I know you had a big lead early from what I
had a
remember.
big lead. We were running. The reason why they came back, we had a collapse. As you say, I know the FCC won't get mad, but that little butthole got tight. So they were making runs back, and we survived it. But that game itself, Digger Phelps is a show in itself, as you all know.
Yeah.
So, and he was pissed off at me that I chose Duke and not Notre Dame because they were top of my list. It's interesting that he cornered me a couple of times, and he said, "You going to Duke? Duke? You comparing Duke to Notre Dame is like comparing a Volkswagen to a Cadillac." So,
I don't remember Notre Dame ever winning a national championship. I don't even know if they'd been to a Final Four until 1978.
well, they the thing that they had was that big game, which got me interested in them when
Yeah,
they
the
beat
UCLA.
and
Yeah.
John Shumate was the one guy that I loved. I loved watching John Shumate play, and the way he played against Walton. So that got my interest. But Digger was it's a story in itself. The recruitment when I dealt with Digger, he was like a car salesman. Did not let up. He would cuss at you, and I'm like, whoa, this dude is unbelievable. But they already had a star-studded group. They had Orlando Woolridge was coming off the bench.
Yeah, Lambeer was off the bench. Let's see, was it Bill
Bruce,
Hanslick, Tracy
yep,
Jackson? I mean, that was their bench. Their bench was good enough to make the tournament.
amazing. They had a start. What is it gonna do having me on that team? I mean, geez,
Yeah,
my
because
God.
actually, if you look at Notre Dame, they were better over the next few years and never got back to the Final Four.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's tough. Listen, it's tough once you get into the NCAAs, especially now. If you watch these NCAAs now, a mid-major will kill a big, powerful team because they cannot wait to get a PCU. Plus, players are before this transfer portal, players been going to mid majors, seeing that they're going to get on TV, and impress everybody. These mid major teams and these small teams, they are not afraid of Kentucky, Duke, Carolina. They don't care who
They
you are.
definitely ain't afraid of Purdue, Gene.
Who I, I, I I still have not gotten over Purdue not getting to this Final Four and with that team they had. But
Yeah, they didn't make it to the second round. They
wow.
lost to a team of midgets, Gene.
And that's a great story about the big guy. I mean, I know some people that knew about him way back when. There's a story about him going. He should have went to the University of Central Florida. That's another story. But uh, it's they had him picked as number one, but they had some deficiencies too. You pressure their guards. You
Yeah,
watch.
they got freshman guards that have issues.
So now what I don't know. He's definitely going to go pro. He has to. I mean, the
I
money's
would
just
assume.
the money's just there. I mean, it's sad. I really wish players would stay longer. And I only say that because of the fact that at least get 2 years in because they get some type of training in out of school. I know now it's different. It's all basketball. I mean, they come to the gym and they got to do their workouts. They go out. It's all basketball now. But I want the kids to have some type of college experience. Walking around campus, eating at the cafeteria. I had that. Now it's just constant basketball all
Well, it's
the
because it's a big money professional sport, really,
yes.
if you look at it. I mean, it just is. It's just like I know I've talked to guys that played about the same time you did, and they're like, well, we never expected nothing extra because our scholarship was worth what we were doing. But now there's so much money coming in, the price of the scholarship is not worth the amount of work you're putting in and the money you're bringing into the school
It's
because
incredible.
it's ridiculous now.
Like for once, I think Duke raised up their tuition, or if I'm correct, I think it's 85,000. Yeah, it's
I know. I'll give this story because when I came back, I used to coach professional football. When I came back to coach high school football a few years ago, I had one of my linemen, and we're having a signing day, and he hands me his, the thing he's signing, his letter of intent, and I'm looking at it, and it says $53,000. Now this is Georgetown, Kentucky. It's an NAIA school, and I looked at him and I said, "That's not bad for 4 years." And he goes, "No, coach, that's a year."
That's a year.
And I'm like, "Dude, you owe
85,000.
me then because that's worth $212,000." But I couldn't believe that. I mean, when I went to Indiana State, I mean, I know what I signed at. It was $7,500 for the year. I mean, that was it. So yeah, I got more than what I needed to go there at that point. But it's ridiculous now. And we talk about 1978 national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about after beating Notre Dame? I think Kentucky beat Arkansas, if I remember right.
Great
and
team. Oh.
yeah, I mean, all four teams in that were great. I think the third place game, Notre Dame beat Arkansas by 2, or Arkansas beat Notre Dame by 2. So it was 4 great teams. But what was it like with Coach Foster from after winning the game on Saturday up until the game started for the national championship on Monday?
Well, he was elated. Everybody was elated, and we won it. And if you watch the end of the CBS thing, Kenny Denard jumps in my arms, and we hug, and that whole thing. It was like a fantasy. I mean, we were used to winning because we had won games after games after games. But it was the way we came. That was a luck game because they could have came back and won that game, kind of. But we were we were in flowing. We didn't care. We weren't even worried about the scouting report in Kentucky. We didn't care. We were like kids. We know we had to go out and do what we had to do. And but for me, it was a little different. If you don't know the story about with my situation, a call came in, and they had threatened my life. People don't know that, but it's on, and they didn't tell me about it. So they put a police guard on my floor and on the hotel and around my parents. Didn't understand what that was all about, but gambling was a big thing back then. I didn't get to any gambling. I'm just saying, and they threatened that. They said if he plays the game, we're going to shoot him and kill him. And Kirk Gowdy mentions this while I'm shooting a free throw. I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
Every time I went out my room, there was an escort with myself and Kenny, whatever. I just thought that was the procedure of the NCAA. But that's what was going on. So I didn't have time to really feel any, and I was just enjoying the moment. But we didn't really worry about Kentucky as much. The biggest problem was what we didn't do at Kentucky. We came out blowing bubble gum, having fun, having a good time. We played that.
Jumped you right away.
Yeah, and that we didn't make adjustments to Goose. Goose made adjustments to us. He went to certain spots, and he started hitting those shots, and he started flowing. And we should have switched and went to maybe a man-to-man. But you got to remember, we played that 2-3 zone was the best ever played in the country. But we had deficiencies. Bonarco was very smart, but he was slow of foot. Mike was a great shot blocker, but if you bring him up, you can go past him, but he'll catch you. But then we had some guys on defense that had some deficiencies man-to-man wise. So that's a lot of times why we stayed in the 2-3, and we didn't make adjustments to that. And Goose went everywhere, this way, that way. He shot the shot one time from his behind, and it went in. So he had one of those games, and we didn't make adjustments. And then we came back and made a forced thing come back. But we, I tell you, it was the most fun. But we realize now when we got down by 12, it's like, dudes, we're grown men now, and this is for real. This is not fun anymore. And that was the first time it struck us like, this is not a game of fun. This is now business, and they're kicking our behinds. And we went into man mode, and we made a chance to come back. He had to bring the starters back in the game. He took them out. He had to bring them back in the game. We made that last run, but that's when the realization of all this went to another level of this ain't fun in games anymore. And the thing that made us sad was when they beat us. They were supposed to beat us, is what was said, because they were the veteran team and so forth. For us, we went in the locker room. We said we're going to go out with dignity. I told all the guys, give me a hand, and we're going to go out in the chain. And we came out. And we stunned the whole stadium, and we held hands, walking like a chain to the court, and our fans started saying, "We'll be back, we'll be back." So that was the most powerful time. It's a great moment to go to the NCAA's, the Final Four, it's a moment that guys will never ever forget, even now.
Yeah, and it's hard to get there a second time.
Yes, sir.
And 1979, the season did not go the way you guys were planning. Do you
Ooh.
think that, I don't know, what happened? Were the expectations just that much greater, put more pressure, or?
It was Murphy's Law. Whatever can happen, happen. Lou Getz left. He was the one that controlled, kept everything tight. So we didn't have that that supervision. Guys were walking around with sunglasses on. This is the first time Duke got a lot of exposure like that. Jaminski and Spinarco had been there a year before me, so you were barely getting people coming to games except for the students. We got almost notoriety, and guys were just milking it, and we lost the innocence. We lost the
Yeah,
innocence. A lot of attention, a lot of newspaper clippings. We were doing commercials. It was crazy. I had experienced it with the high school thing, but we lost our priorities. The first day of practice, Bill Foster changed the starting lineup. First day of practice, John Harold, who was a transfer from North Carolina Central, HBCU school, had started and led us all the whole season. And we had Bobby Bender, who had transferred from Indiana and came in. They had it was great with the two of them because they had two different styles. What he did was, I don't know if that was a promise that Coach Foster had with Bobby Bender, but what he did, he switched it. He made Bobby Bender the starter and John Harrell the reserve on the first day.
yeah,
And first day divided our team because
yeah,
everybody was like, oh my God, what's going on? And the second team didn't like the first team. And it got real. People didn't know this. It got I didn't pay any mind. I didn't think it was that serious, but it got serious. And then we went through the motions. We had some great moments, but and then Spinarco had to get his numbers up. And that being said, that the offense changed, and Mike was always a good shooter, from a big jump shooter, but he was shooting more. And then it just we got away from the innocence of the game, and it caught up with us. It caught up with us on Black Sunday when
yeah,
we had opportunity to. Carolina had to play Pennsylvania, and they lost. And both of those games were in Raleigh. Both of us, we had the perfect route to both of us going to. I think it was the final eight. I think it was the final eight, if I'm correct. And Carolina loses to Pennsylvania, and we got St. John's. Kenny Denard goes the night before. Show you how stupid and silly things are. He blows his ankle out, hanging out and shooting ball in Cameron with some football players. People don't know that story. And then Bob Bender, who had been starting, he gets an appendicitis. Those two things, it's like the spirits got us back. And then you had to insert John Harrell back into the starting lineup, who was out of shape. He didn't care. He was mad. And then we had to put in Jim Sutter, who was slender. He wasn't Kenny Denard.
yeah,
So St. John's beats us. So Carolina and Duke plays in Raleigh, North Carolina. We get knocked out. Think
yeah.
about it. Then we're back in the final eight. We win that game.
And then Penn beats St. John's, and Penn goes to the Final Four to get the worst ass beating anybody's ever gotten in a Final Four game by Michigan State and Magic Johnson, if I remember right.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But you look at, you talk about Duke's thing. Penn really had a great run too, because the year before that, they played us. And we knocked them. They were up 4 points with 2 minutes going with the ball.
Yeah,
They could have went on. Okay. Then the following year they do that. Then the third year, it's so I look at it, I could have been on that Penn team. So
maybe they don't get their ass whipped in '79 if you're on the team. They'll have you to guard Greg Kelser.
Say it again.
I said they would have you to guard Greg Kelser then, so everything would have worked out better because Greg Kelser was a hell of an athlete.
Oh, he's a great person too. I've talked to him several times. I need to keep in contact with most of these guys, which I've been very lucky to do. But great, he was amazing. They give Magic all the accolades, but Sam Vincent and Kelser was something else, man. Oof.
Well, Kelser was the difference in that '79 championship game.
Yep.
He played better than Magic or Bird did in that game, and nobody remembers it because they just remember Magic versus Bird. 1980, you guys beat Kentucky at Rupp Arena in the Sweet 16, lose to Purdue. I don't know, but beating Kentucky in Rupp Arena in the Sweet 16 had to be cool as hell, anyways, though, right?
Well, the first thing was, how did that damn happen? I mean, how could they get a game? in Rupp Arena like that.
Well,
So
it used to have, if you look a year later, 1981, regional semifinals and finals, Indiana played at Assembly Hall. And then I think the last time they let teams play a regional semifinal final at home was Kentucky again in 1984, because I remember they beat Illinois in the Elite Eight by like a point. And there were some highly questionable decisions made by the officials in that game also.
it was crazy. I mean, that was the next biggest rivalry between Carolina was Kentucky and Duke, and to be able to get them and beat them, knowing what happened to us way back then, didn't hold no chip on the shoulder with it. But it's a blue blood, it's a blue blood held up to standards, and everybody watching. They want to see how this goes, and your credibility goes sky high when you're playing against teams like Kentucky and the respect. So definitely wanted to beat them. And then also you got to remember Vince Taylor was from. He was a McDonald's All-American player on our team. He was from Lexington, Kentucky, so that was a big game for us to win for him. So we had a lot of motivation to beat them. And they had, I think it was Sam Bowie was on that team.
Sam Bowie and Mel Turpin both weren't they?
Mel Turpin. They had the first really true twin towers. So that was one of those games that I thought we had to win. I put it doesn't matter if they had the Twin Towers or not. I went to another level where the Tinkerbell legend.
Yeah, what's up with the Tinkerbell? How did you get the Tinkerbell? I mean, did you like Peter Pan peanut butter when you were little or something, Gene?
No, man. I tell you, my cousin gave me the name. My cousin Ted Theodore would give a lot of guys in Philadelphia their names. So he was looking for a nickname for me, like Magnum Force. Gene the Dunker Machine. So he comes to my high school. He went to Allen. I went to West Philly. He comes over to my high school. He's going to hang out with me. We have a fire drill, coincidentally. Anyway, make a long story short, I don't go back in when the fire drill tells us to go back in. We go downtown. We're hooking for the rest of the day. So we go downtown. Back then in Philadelphia, you have the white cars, which is the truant officers. If you get caught with them, they bring you back to school. Your parents catch you. You get in trouble. Back then you get whippings and
get your ass whooped. Yeah.
we duck into the movie theater. We're sitting there. We're hiding out, and up there is this thing of Peter Pan. I'm looking. He goes, "Yeah, that's what we're gonna call you." So I'm looking up. I see Captain Hook. I see Peter Pan. I'm like, what are you gonna call me? He says, "No, man." He talks like that. That's gonna be your name. I'm looking at him like, what the hell? He said, Tinkerbell. I says, you out of your damn mind.
Man, develop a hook shot and just be called Captain Hook. Damn.
Tinkerbell. He says, no, you don't understand. He's a philosopher. He said, you see how she flies through the air and with all the magic, that's how your ups are. He said, you see the magic? That's the magic you have with people and how that's who you are, Tinkerbell. I said, if you think about ever calling me that name, I will rip your head off. And I said all this stuff. So we got a championship game 2 days later. My first city, I'm the sophomore on this team. I'm averaging 15 points. We're playing the Father Judge. It's at Temple's. It's a big game for Philadelphia. It's like the state championship. I have a great game. I have this great game. I've been playing decent. So he's been going through the stadium saying every time I shoot Tinkerbell, he's got this thing going. I hear it, but I don't hear it. So anyway, I win. I get interviewed. I'm on the front of the paper. All this whole thing. We're in the kitchen in the morning, and my mom is cooking. Everybody. My sister runs in with the newspaper. Mommy, look, front page, and it says on there, the front page, there's a new bell. There's another bell in Philadelphia, the Tinkerbell, and it's got this whole written thing out. I'm furious. I'm freaking out. I'm going, what the hell, And just then he's walking through the door because he loved to come by and eat my mom's cooking early in the morning. And I grab him by his collar. I said, bring your ass here. We're walking around the corner and I'm gripping him. He says, you couldn't give me another name like, the Brute or something? Da, da, da. And we're talking. I'm ripping him. He says, you don't understand. So I go, and these two kids are playing. Here's the key of the story. These two kids are playing one-on-one out there in the court. These are courts we play. And one kid is making a move. He says, I'm going to make this move like Lewis Black Magic Lloyd. And watch that. And then the other kid goes, well, I'm going to back you in him. I'm going to do a patented step back like the Tinkerbell. And we were arguing back and forth, and we just stopped and looked. And I looked, and Teddy looked, and he walked away like somebody dropping the mic, and walked away. He pointed at me and says, "You see what I'm talking about?" And I saw that. I said, "Wow, this was only 2 days." I said, "That was deep." And then as I go back, he says, "You got to understand something. It's a superhero thing. It's not no feminine masculine." He said, "Clark Kent, Superman. Bruce Wayne, Batman." He said, "Gene Banks, Tinkerbell."
Tinkerbell.
And I embraced it. I had this ritual I do before I go out the game. I do this Hulk sweating and screaming and howling, talking to myself, and the Tinkerbell's going to come flying, and it carried on. And I didn't think it was going to carry on to Duke, but it did. Nobody calls me by my name. No one calls me by Gene. They call me Tink or Tinker, everyone. So it became a superhero.
All right, 1980 Tinkerbell. 1980, you guys finished losing the Elite Eight to Purdue, I think 68-60, something like that. Did Coach Foster leaving surprise you guys?
Yeah, I mean him and the athletic director, Tom Butters, were fighting all the time about different stuff. I mean, they had arguments about them paving the front of Cameron. It was all mud. When it rained, it would just be muddy. Cameron looks great right now, but at one time we would come in and you had to watch. If it rained, you had problems, And they argue about different things, and they just had a bloody fight constantly, the whole 9 yards. So when we got wind of it, he finally had to take us out. He took Kenny out, took me out, and told us he's gonna leave and so forth. And I didn't take it a certain way. I mean, I was trying to be a man. I said, well, that's coach. That's what the man's got to do, and you got the family and blah blah blah. That's the way I took it. Coach, you got to do what you got to do. I respect it. But later on, my dad and other people were pissed because I could have left and went pro earlier and left the school. He said, "That's SOB such and such." That was the only time my dad ever said anything. And he said, "You're supposed to stay until you left from there." Blah 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 blah. So when you start thinking about it that way, I was like, "Wow, that is kind of deep." Because when he left, it was a big vacuum of a mess because they never talked to me or Kenny Denard, who were returning captains, so to speak, about anything. We thought Tom Davis was coming. Kenny and I. Tom Davis, I think he was at Iowa at the time.
Yeah, Dr. Tom.
Dr. Tom.
I don't think he was at Iowa at the time because that would have been Lute Olson when they went to the Final Four in 80, I think. But I think that Dr. Tom went there after Olson left for Arizona in like 82, but I'm not sure. It's right around that time.
That was the only thing we knew. They never asked us, they never talked to us. And Kenny went on. Kenny left for spring break, went down to the Keys, and was sitting out on a boat, chilling out. I went to Philadelphia to spend the extra day. And next thing I know, I look on the news, and the news is saying, well, Duke has a new head coach, and we cannot pronounce his name. My mom is going, son, you need to look at this. As okay, Mike, whatever. And because Kenny and I weren't there, they thought we were boycotting it. No, we didn't know anything about it. They never told us nothing about it. Coach K called us that night and asked us to come on back, and we came back and we sat with him the very next couple of days, and he was young looking, but he opened up with a crack about responsibilities, but he was he was cracking a joke about it, but he was serious about us crossing lines and being respectful as men. So I liked him. I mean, I never had anything against anybody that was of authority and didn't know what to expect. But he surprised us. He surprised us in a lot of ways.
All right. So after that season, I think it ended like your junior season, which was a loss only at Mackey in the Elite Eight at the NIT to Purdue. What were your prospects NBA wise? Was there any place you specifically wanted to go? And specifically, were you all right with San Antonio?
No, I never even thought about the pros. I mean, there was some much to do after my freshman year. That was nothing serious. In my sophomore year, which I didn't have a really good year, I think something about Indiana Pacers. I'm not sure. Some people were bringing that to my attention. And then my junior year, I flirted with it. I played with it. there was some scuttlebutt talking that you can go pro and all these things, and I looked at the prospects of it, and listen, I was enjoying college too much. At that time, NBA was a man's game, so I wasn't ready to rush into that man's game. I love college. I've enjoyed. I mean, it wasn't about college basketball, just college in general. Wasn't ready to come from that. I know when K was about to come, they were wondering if I was going to go pro or not, and I played with that just for the attention. But I was going to come back and finish my year. So no, I mean, my thing was my mom was always instilled in me. The biggest thing was you need to finish what you started, and that doesn't make sense now because the way the money is, you have to make the great decision. The Tyler Hansberry theory, I call it. You stay an extra year, your worth goes down, kind of thing. But no, but back then it was all about for me was the fact that I need to finish what I started. And I always kept saying I wanted to be one of the most talented and influential basketball players in Duke history. I wanted to do this and wanted to do that, and I wanted to get my degree. I was the first in my family to get my degree and to go to college, so to speak. So I wouldn't say it was pressure, but it was something that I can just still go back and finish my final year. I can get my degree. So there's no pressure for me to go pro. How I wound up with San Antonio was the fact that I broke my wrist. My last game in the NIT, I might be going forward with that under Coach K, and I dropped from being one of the top 3 or 4 picks to 28th. And the Spurs didn't have a first round pick, but they had the first pick in the second round, and that was probably the greatest gift that ever happened to me. I was hurt, mad, upset, because guys that I played in the ACC, I was not say killing, but I was the ACC scoring leader. I manned up to those guys, and I dropped, and it hurt. But it was the greatest thing for me to ever happen was to go to San Antonio.
Well, number one, you didn't get stuck on the crappy team that picks first. But on top of that, San Antonio, you have NBA legends in Artis Gilmore,
Yeah.
George Gervin,
Yes.
and you fall there right like 82, 83. You're in the Western Conference Final at the Hemisphere Arena against the LA Lakers, Magic Johnson. You want to talk a little bit about that experience? Because at 83, you guys took them 6 games, and I think you won a game or 2 at LA, too, at the Forum.
We love playing the Lakers, and the Lakers love playing us. The biggest difference that they got over us, and people won't even know, it's like the Buffalo Bills. You look at the Buffalo Bills, they went to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row?
4 years in a row.
4 years in a row, and no one gives them the respect that they had a good franchise, they had a good scouting crew, they had all these people that worked around it. The infrastructure was amazing. For you to do that 4 years in a row is amazing. Now you're not even hailed as a top organization because of the fact that you didn't win it. Okay, so the Spurs, here we are. I get drafted by them. You got to remember, Mark Oberding was a player on that team who played at the University of Minnesota. So I'm coming off the bench my first year. We have George Johnson, who led the league in shot block. Then they traded for Artis. You got to remember that following year, when you talk about 83, 84, I was 4th on the depth chart. The spot opens up. Okay, they trade Mark Oberding out. We get an Artis Gilmore. Now, Johnny Moore, who's leading the league in assists, over Magic as well. Iceman is leading the league in scoring. Then we get Artis Gilmore comes in, and we trade for Mike Mitchell, who was an all-star at Cleveland. Now there's a power forward spot. Now I'm 6'7", 6'8", but I'm not power. There was 3 guys ahead of me: Paul Griffin, Kevin Rustani, and there was another guy that was there. And Stan Allback is giving me crap. Now, Mike Mitchell and I are the same size. But that was the one time I remember when we talk about Kobe, the Mamba attitude of working hard and coming in early and working 2 hours and staying 4 hours. That was I worked my buns off to whatever the case may be, because I was able to play with strength and power, play defense, but I also knew how to run. And when the ball went up and got out, I won that spot. That was the greatest moment of my life as far as hard work paying off. I won that spot, and I become the starter for that team. And that team, it was exciting. We had Artis Gilmore, as you well know. He's, we had,
George Gervin. That's the one that gets me 26.2 points, I think, the 82-83 season.
yes,
One of the
yeah.
greatest scorers in NBA history.
Oh, you have to be there to play with him to see how the stuff he did was just amazing. Then we had A-Train, and then Johnny Moore was leading the league in assists. I was leading the NBA that year in field goal, I think for like two months. I was shooting 60-something%.
Well, I think that when I looked up the 83 team, there was like 7 guys that averaged double figures or better there because you had Gervin, who was 26. I think Mike Mitchell was 20. Gilmore was 20. You were
Yep,
16. Johnny
yep,
Moore was like 13
yep,
point something. Dunleavy was 13 point
yep,
something. And
yep,
then you had Bill Willoughby, who averaged over 10 points a game.
yep,
I
yep.
mean, it was a very deep team, to say the least.
We were a deep team, and the thing with the Lakers was, and Pat Riley said this. I says, he said, what was the biggest key? He said the biggest key for us beating you guys, because we beat them 4 out of 6 times that year. I think it was, if it was correct. Because we love playing the Forum. He said the biggest key was we went out and got Bob McAdoo.
Yeah.
Bob McAdoo was the X factor, and Bob McAdoo was the key to them beating us. Other than that, we went back and forth to Lakers, and they had no fear of them. We enjoyed playing against them. We had the Iceman, we had all this, but Bob McAdoo took them to the championship. I tell you.
Yeah, and Bob McAdoo was one of the greatest scorers in NBA history up
Oh
to
my,
that point when he was in Buffalo and everywhere else. Wherever he went, he produced.
Bob McAdoo is the epitome of one of the greatest players that should be known as one of the greatest players ever.
Artis Gilmore also, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves either.
No, he doesn't get it. But Bob was, for me, the thing I moved on, but the thing that I think about more than anything else, and I cuss the guys out. I'm a young guy. I said, we got this damn opportunity, and we're getting away from our game when they about ready to knock us out. They're knocking us out from the going into the championship, and I was pissed. And Artis had to grab me and lift me up and to calm me down. I says, guys, these opportunities don't come all the time. They don't happen all the time. So we got to nail down. And that's what the Lakers were. They knew how the regular season was regular season. The playoffs is a whole different world. It's like
they also had Magic and Kareem, which doesn't hurt.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. So we were able to match up with them, so to speak, and those are gladiator. These are gladiator type situations. But Kareem is just amazing. Magic, I love Magic since high school. We played together. He's the one that helped me win my first McDonald's All-American trophy. It was Magic. Said, "Come on, Tinkerbell, let's fly." So I love Magic since then. So who doesn't love a guy like him? But that team was an amazing team, and it's just like when I was at Duke, there was a breakup. The following year, all we had to do was make some additions and add something here, and next thing a coach does this, and it's always that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen to NCAAs. These guys, some of these teams are going to happen. Players are going to leave, which they can do now. All right, if I'm Purdue, I'm grabbing some kids from the transfer portal. To fix my pieces to it. But kids are going to leave. They're going to be gone. Kentucky kids are going to leave. So these kids can go any which way. The game has gotten so it's scary to see how it is.
Yeah. And it's probably not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse as we go. I mean, that's basically society in general just continues to get worse, Gene. But if you read the Bible, you'll realize that's the way the plan works. So
yeah. And I've been doing scripture readings with George Iceman recently.
Yeah.
Into it very, and it's all about just reading scriptures to learn about what's happening in this life. I'm not trying to pick any type of. I was raised Pentecostal and so forth, but I'm not here to bash anybody over the head and force anything. My thing is I have a love for God. I have a love for God, and He's steered my life. I mean, I don't know what He's done for everybody else, but and I also have a love for the Lord Jesus Christ. But I also know that a lot of churches now it's like they're praying to Jesus than they're more praying to God, and there's more also in the Black realm of churches, and that's not what it is. And Jesus will tell you, no, don't praise me, praise our Father, not me. So I'm trying to learn deeper more of that, and I have within my spirit is that it's about loving and giving your love and your will to God, and you know that His Son, yes, you love His Son Jesus Christ. I love Jesus Christ too, but I also know that we're at places and people are just, even in basketball, people are just taking it whatever way. Like you said, life is just so.
People have lost their way. People tend to read the Bible now and try to pick out the things that work for them and leave out the things that don't. I mean, it's just the way it is. You see it all the time.
And it's real simple. You know, do unto others as you have people do unto you. Get up in the morning, say a nice meditation prayer. I mean, these are little things that are just, that's all I learned to read the scriptures on. You know, basically like my neighbor. I don't give a crap if my neighbor is green, purple, whatever. I'm gonna treat my neighbor and help them out, whatever. And I have a really tendency about elderly people, and I don't care what color they are. When you treat elderly people wrong, I'm gonna stand up and take a bullet for them because they've lived their life.
Yeah.
You and you cannot mistreat them and kids. So that's what my scripture reading with ICE is, to be stronger and learning how to read the scriptures and what they mean to it, and not just use them to distract for my own personal agendas or thinking.
Yeah, which is what most people pervert the word of God anymore,
Yep,
if you know what
yep,
I mean. And
yep,
I mean, you're either a Christian or you're not. I don't care what
yep.
denomination. I don't know. In the Bible, I don't see a lot about Methodist or any religion.
Thank
It's
you.
supposed to be
Thank,
about God. It's supposed to
thank,
be about the scripture and God's word.
yes.
And everybody gets away from that. And
Go
it's
ahead,
an
preach, man.
absolute
Preach.
joke. Well, I can tell you this. I coached football for like 25 years. The last 5 or 6 of the 25, I coached arena football, won a bunch of games, thought real great about myself. In 2013, we lost a championship game in front of a packed house on TV. And I'm in there, and my team pastor walks up to me and he passed me on the back. He says, "You know the good thing about this, coach?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "When you get to heaven, God's not going to ask you why you lost this game. That's not going to matter at all." So then my kids were getting to the point where they could go to high school. Now I want to coach my kids. And I found a Christian homeschool football team. I volunteered to help coach. Both my boys played. So for 4 years, whether they wanted to or not, they heard the word of God. They had to give devotions. And I think even people that are just in the proximity of God's word, eventually some of that's going to kick in with them.
Mhm.
And I decided, instead of, going out and making really good money coaching football, I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to coach for free because that's what God would want me to do. That's where I've been ever since. And I mean, this thing is, I grew up, I believed in God. We didn't go to church. We didn't read the Bible that much. And I think my dad, he grew up in like the 40s and 50s. And when he was 9 years old and he used to go to church, him and his family were really poor. They had like 7 brothers and sisters, a single mom. And he went to church one time with no shoes because he didn't have enough money to get shoes. And the other ones had fallen apart. And the people at the church made fun of him.
Mhm.
That was the last time he went to church. And I think there's way too many. It's just like, if you got to come up and tell me you're a Christian, you know, I should be able to tell that by your actions,
Yep.
not by
Yeah.
your words.
Right. That's
Yeah,
right.
and that's my issue. Maybe we could just have the sports gospel hour from now on, once a week, with Gene and Mike, if you want. But and
Yeah.
if it upsets people, that's tough, because that's just the way I am, and you're the way you are. And if everybody was like that, I think this would be a much better world, Gene.
It's all about your actions. I mean, your heart. God knows your heart, and you shine actions of how you treat people and how you represent. You ain't got to act a fool and all these things. Just little things, the simplest little things, which will mean so much. And people see that. They see that come out of your spirit. So I'll never do just the yap, yap, yap. I just do what I can do from my heart, and God will, He will bless me. I don't crave for the blessings, but I just do what I need to do. And I just say, God looks back and just says, He pats me on my back. And because if it wasn't for Him, through my experiences I've gone through that you don't even know about, I lost my wife to multiple sclerosis. I lost a son through an artery. So I've had some highs, I've had some lows.
Hey, Gene, isn't that why we're supposed to be nice to everybody? Because everybody has something happen that
Yes,
you generally don't know about that was horrible to them.
yeah,
And
yes,
everybody has it, and everybody reacts to it differently. So why are you going to go around being mean to everybody? I mean,
Yeah.
this guy might be mad and honking at you because something bad just happened in his
Yep.
life and he's
Yep.
frustrated. And most people that act that way are frustrated.
Yep.
And they're frustrated because they're missing something in their life. And I can tell everybody what that is, or you can just listen to our last 5 minutes. You'll know what I would say.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
But hey, Gene,
I respect that. It's been
Gene, it was absolutely great to have you on. We are running towards the end of the broadcast because it only goes like an hour and 10 minutes at most.
no doubt.
But I know me and Steve Risley won a 1981 national championship with IU. We're going to do a Final Four preview show next week. So we're definitely going to invite you on and we can all complain about how our teams aren't there. But we can talk about the 4 teams that are, make some predictions. If you're up for that, we would love to have you.
We'll have some fun. God has brought us together just to, you know what is interesting, and I know God has brought us together just to talk about that, but also to talk about sharing His goodness, that what He's done to us, just so somebody else to hear this that might be cross. We're not trying to bring anybody or save souls or anything like that, but just to hear us talk about God in sports is beautiful.
Yes, it is, Gene. But we are going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up. I want you guys to go on Twitter, follow us on Twitter at Grilling Truth, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification on YouTube. So we're getting near 80,000 subscribers on YouTube. So make sure you go there, click that.
Yeah. Yes.
We've got 152,000 followers on Facebook on our page there. Make sure you check that out. We've got a ton of shows going all week. Of course, we'll have a Final Four show with me, Steve, and Gene next week sometime. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. I want to thank.
Not to forget, they can go on my website and see some great pictures at www.genebankslegend.com.
See, you got to let me know before the show, or I would have just asked you about it. It would have been easier. What was that again now? Genebanks.com?
Genebankslegend.com.
All right. www.genebankslegend.com. Make sure you check that out. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap it up, guys. So for Gene Banks, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grilling Truth. We're the legend.